Hello, everybody. I'm here live with Jessica Green, but I cannot hear her or see her, and I need her to say something, and you guys need to let me know if you can hear her. Yeah. So, did you guys hear that? If not, I'm kicking Jessica out, and I'm just gonna do it myself. I love you to death, Jessica, but I don't know what's happening. We've both rebooted. We've tried and tried and tried. Okay, so chat is saying they can only hear and see me. So real quick, I love you very much, Jessica, but the show must go on, and we're gonna what's his name said, F it, we'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thank you. Bye. All right. So we tried, guys. We tried. So I'll get my regular co-host. Let me put my earbuds away. We will get my regular co-host in here. I'm glad to see that Rumble and Odyssey are working today. Are they working today? Oh, yeah, they are. Okay. So, technical difficulties. Would it really be a Katie Zed show without technical difficulties? I'm not sure it would be. Not sure it would be. I'm very sorry that you guys were not able to see Jessica Green. She's one of my good friends, longtime friends, in and out of public life, Jessica Green, but we will have her on again sometime. So instead, we have Xena here. Xena, wake up. You dead? She's not dead, I promise. I promise she's not dead. So today I'm going to be telling you the story of Colton Harris Moore. Have you guys heard of him? I hadn't heard of him until after the fact, but apparently as the story was happening, he turned out to be kind of a folk hero, which is interesting, that a criminal is a folk hero, but I'm sure it's happened before and it will happen again. I kind of feel bad for this guy. He had a rough upbringing, and he started out doing what he did just to survive, basically. So we'll get into it. So Colton Harris Moore was born on March 22nd, 1991, and he was born in Mount Vernon, Washington State, and grew up in his mother's house on Camino. It's spelled Camano Island, but in all the news stories I watched, they say Camino Island. He grew up in Camino Island, and the neighbors said that they were always fighting and that they would always hear arguments coming from next door, and social services was called a bunch, like child protective services was called a bunch on that house. And his father, Gordon, was on drugs and was in and out of prison, and ended up leaving the family when Colton was about 2 to 3 years old. So no dad in the life. We know that having a father figure in your life is very important for a child's upbringing. At least I know that. Hopefully you all know that too. Colton, when he was 12 years old, his father or his stepfather ended up leaving him as well. He had recently been released into the or released from prison, was his stepfather, and ended up leaving as well. So again, no father figure in the life. When he was 12 years old, he basically left his house. He kept running away from the time he was a little kid all the way up until all of this stuff that I'm about to tell you happened. He would run away all the time, and when he was 12, he would run away, the live in the woods. He would break into, there was a lot of vacation homes in this area that they lived in. So there's a lot of vacation homes there, and he would break into these vacation homes, and all he would do in there was steal food, like eat their food and take a shower, and then leave everything as he found it. He wouldn't steal valuables, or I mean, obviously stealing is stealing, so stealing food is stealing, but he was stealing just to eat and survive. He lived in the woods. He made shelters, like either little lean-to shelters, things like that. According to his mother, Pamela Kohler. Oh, by the way, Pamela, from all accounts, was also a alcoholic and was not a great mom, which kind of stinks for Colton. He didn't really have any parental figures in his life at all that weren't just constantly yelling at him. I didn't hear about any physical abuse, but it wouldn't surprise me, honestly. Yeah, Goldilocks syndrome for sure. He would break into people's houses, and he would. Let me put that on the screen. He would break into people's houses, eat, shower, that sort of stuff. I got distracted by the chat. By the way, thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate seeing you all here. He wouldn't listen to his teachers. He started altercations at school. He would sometimes deliberately break things around the house. When he was 7 years old, his mom said he was in first grade, and she knew there was something off about him. There was some sort of disconnection. Her words, not mine. According to a court-ordered psychiatric evaluation, Moore said that his mother drank a lot, became mean, and started breaking his possessions. So it was just a constant battle at home. So he ended up living in the woods. He would break into homes, stealing blankets, camping supplies, food, water, before he would just disappear into the forest for days. His first conviction came because he got caught stealing property at the age of 12. By the time he was 13, he had 3 convictions for stealing stuff out of people's homes. Each conviction brought a 10-day stay in a juvenile detention center or community service. So it was never any real big consequences for this. 10 days in juvie is like nothing when you're living in the woods. It's probably was kind of like a vacation for him to have 3 meals a day, a bed to sleep in, a roof over his head. He's 12 and 13 years old at this time, guys. So in 2003, police found a neighbor's camcorder at his home, and he had never been sentenced before for more than a few days. This time he was looking at a 3-year sentence. So he went to juvie while he's waiting trial, and the juvie, he apparently behaved in there, and they put him in a halfway house, an unfenced halfway house is what they called it, unfenced. He walked away from that halfway house in April of 2008. Now, this is where the story really kicks off. So that was just a little background on Colton and his family and his upbringing. April of 2008, Colton starts living in the woods. He's 16 years old at the time. In order to survive, he starts robbing local businesses at night. He figures out how the alarm system works, and he's able to excuse me, detach it so the alarm technically is still going off, but it's not sending a signal to the police department. He figures that out all on his own, how to disarm the alarms. He breaks into grocery stores, stealing beef jerky, chips. Apparently, he was a fan of vitamin water. One of the news interviews I saw, the gentleman said that he stole like a whole case of vitamin water, and he wasn't even sure how he was able to carry it. At this time, he starts stealing credit card information and from either the businesses he's breaking into or people's vacation homes, and starts stealing survival gear. So the residents of Camino Island start to notice changes, like or charges on their credit card statements, and these charges are for survival gear, instruction manuals for airplanes. Keep that in the back of your head. Hacking software, GPS systems, bear mace, and several DVDs about like instructional DVDs on how to fly a Cessna airplane. So, due to all this legal heat that's coming down on the cops are just constantly looking for him. They're going into the woods. They're finding places where he has been camping and he's gone by that time. They, steal. The police aren't really stealing his stuff. The police are taking his stuff, the tents and the gear and all of that. And he's having to start over from scratch over and over again. So he ends up breaking into more places and things like that. Getting more gear, breaking into. There's one story where he broke into a hardware store and used the tools in the hardware store to beat the heck out of a safe that had $3,000 in it. He used the crowbars and tools and stuff that were in the hardware store to rob the hardware store. At this point, he's got a friend that he's breaking into houses with, and the friend did an interview, and he was saying that they would people left all sorts of stuff in their vacation homes. The area that they're in, they said that 1 out of every 3 houses on that island were vacation homes, so nobody was there year round. Very, very interesting place to live when there's these people who are rich enough to have vacation homes, a second home, and he's living in the woods with no home at all. And even if he did go home, his mom lives in like a beat down trailer. The neighbors say the trailer should have been condemned a long time ago. That's how bad it was. But his friend was saying that people would leave a car there, so they would borrow the car, but they would always return it. And not only would they return it good as new, but they would fill up the gas tank and wash the car before they put it back in the exact same spot where they found it. So it's around this point he's kind of upgraded now from stealing when he's 12 or 13, stealing just to survive, to get food and a tent and whatever he needed to live, to stealing actual stuff and breaking it. And even if you break into somebody's house and you don't necessarily steal anything, you've broken their lock or you've pried open their door, so there is damage done. He's definitely victimizing this community. The community's kind of a little ticked off that all of their stuff is broken into and their stuff is going missing. And then also some of them, there was one interview that I watched where the Colton had broken into her garage where she had a refrigerator in her garage. I thought maybe I was the only person that had a refrigerator in my garage, but apparently a lot of people do this. But he broke into the garage, and in the garage fridge there was frozen pizzas and drinks and stuff like that. And he pried her door open, broke her lock, stole pizzas, frozen pizzas and drinks, and left. And in the interview, she said, "I almost feel like it would have been better." She was basically saying, "I don't want to see a kid go hungry, but it would have been better for him just to ask, or for her just to leave food out for him instead of him breaking her locks and her having to repair the garage door over and over again." It happened to her twice, actually. So at this point, it's escalating. It's escalating at this point. Let me ask the chat real quick. How do you guys feel about this guy so far? Um, if he broke into your garage refrigerator, broke your lock, would you be mad or would you? I kind of see where this woman is coming from. Like, I don't want to see somebody go hungry, but also don't break my stuff, you know? Um, I guess 1 in the chat if you're okay with it so far. 2 in the chat if you would want him to get caught and go to jail for a long time. Yeah, I feel empathy towards him too, finding the faith, for sure. For sure. But I don't know, I'm torn. I'm torn on this one. You don't want to root for the criminal. And it also helps. I've seen recent interviews that Colton has done, and he reminded me a lot of Justin, to where he really is apologetic, really feels remorse for what he did do, and wouldn't do it again. You know what I mean? So, News Now Enemy says jail for a short time. Yeah. Yo Mama, good to see you in the chat. Yo Mama, if you guys don't know, is my mama, and it's Mother's Day, so everybody please wish Yo Mama a happy Mother's Day in the chat right now. If you love me, you'll do it. She's my mom. She's the best, and I love her very much. Speaking of mothers, Colton Harris Moore's mom, not the best mom in the world. And I don't know how you can let your kid just live in the woods at age 12. It's insane. So back to the escalation. Where was I? Notes. Okay, so he breaks into a sheriff deputy's car and steals a rifle, ammo, and a police computer that's got like all the police stuff on the computer. Like, they left, whoever this cop is, left all the stuff in their car. I didn't think they did that. I didn't think they just left guns in their cars for somebody just to break a window and be able to steal all this stuff. So he gets a rifle, which I'm assuming if it's a police rifle, it's probably an AR-15 or similar style rifle, or as we saw on my show last week, an AR-51. That was hilarious. No, an AR-15 style rifle, I'm assuming, although it is bear country, so maybe they have some sort of like bear hunting rifle. I think an AR-15 is kind of too small to fight off of the kind of bears they have in Washington. Not sure. That was a side note tangent. He also breaks into a fire station and a fire truck, and the only thing that he stole from the fire station was an infrared camera. The reason he stole this is because then he can see into people's houses to see if anybody's home before he goes in there, which is kind of smart. This kid's pretty smart. So he figures out like, oh, who would have where can I get an infrared camera from? Oh, the fire station would have one. And yes, indeed, the fire station did have one. Quick side note here. If you want to give Xena a milk bone, you can definitely do that, and I'll tell you how. To give Xena a milk bone, all you have to do is either make a donation on buymeacoffee.com//KDZ. Any donation at all. Xena gets a milk bone on air. I have them right here. As soon as I rattle this bag, maybe she's really asleep. Nope, she hears them. Yeah, you guys got to get her one. She wants one. So you can either do it there, or you can, of course, become a subscribe star with a monthly donation on subscribestar.com/KDZ. While I'm at it, don't forget to hit the like button, share if you think it's worth sharing, and after the fact, go back and make a comment because that helps the algorithm. I'm also over on Rumble right now. Hello to my Rumble folks. Based Babe is over there. Frida's over there. Emma Q. Oh, Frida is Based Babe. Duh. Emma and Frida are over there. Nice to see you guys over there. Always replays go to Rumble and Odyssey. My Crimeland show does not stay up on YouTube for very long, usually, and it will always be on Rumble after the fact. Back to the story. Oops. I'm pressing the wrong buttons. Yeah, I figured that out finding the faith. You're all the same person. You have multiple personalities, Frida. Okay, so he goes in and he starts robbing grocery stores, restaurants, hardware stores. The restaurant, okay, here's a fun story. I mean, fun in the criminal sense. At the restaurant that he robbed, he stole a credit card or credit card information, used the credit card to buy instruction manuals on how to fly an airplane and like the owner's manual for a Cessna. And he goes online, buys the stuff, has the books shipped to the restaurant where he stole the credit cards from, keeps an eye on the tracking from UPS or FedEx or however it's coming. And then once it's delivered, he breaks into the restaurant again to get his books. A little crazy. So the heat's starting to come down on old Colton. Neighbors are not happy about it. I'm going to show you a little video here about how the neighbors were feeling about. Hold on one second. I got to share my screen and make sure that the audio is shared. I'm going to do that ahead of time instead of doing it and then asking you guys if you can hear it.
Cops and residents think a teenage crook is at it again.
This teen Houdini, Colton Moore, has been on the run since he escaped 3 months ago from a group home on Camano Island. He had confessed to a string of burglaries. Now deputies think Moore is stealing again. And Como 4's Akiko Fujita says neighbors are sick of it.
Well, those living out here, many of them know Colton Moore personally, and they say they had a hunch that he was back after a string of burglars over the last few weeks. Last night, deputies spotted him in this parking lot as he jumped out of a moving car that crashed into this trash can.
You just kind of have an inkling that it is.
That it is Colton Moore. Lori Flickner knew he was back when police called to say a stolen car ran into her Elger Bay grocery store.
You just kind of wish that he would make some smarter choices, and I would rather they get a hold of him before something does happen.
Island County deputies spotted Moore in a black sports car last night, speeding and driving erratically. When they tried to pull him over, he jumped out of the moving car.
The officer picked a lit area, hoping that he would pull over to the right. Instead of pulling to the right, he went to the left and then into the Elger Bay, southwest corner of the Elger Bay grocery.
A dumpster stopped the car from going into the store, but it didn't stop Moore. He ran off before police could catch him, launching an island-wide search.
He pulled up to in front of my neighbor's house across the street, spotlighting some more, and then backed around the corner and sat up over there for a little bit.
Tactical teams from Marysville expanded that search today with help from canine units. They combed through wooded areas, down roads familiar to Moore without any luck.
Just to do it over and over and over again, and it's just a repeated slap in the face of the whole island.
Josh Flickner says he's fed up with the 17-year-old who's terrorized South Camano Island for years. In court last year, Moore admitted to breaking into homes, helping himself to beds, cars, and credit cards. A judge sentenced him to 3 years in jail, but he ran away with more than 2 years left to serve.
Deputies have been going all over the county handing out these flyers, letting people know that Colton Moore is back in the neighborhood. I just spoke with the sheriff's department. Detective there tells me they have not found any good leads. In the meantime, that stolen car has been returned to the owner. Live on Camano Island, Akiko Fujita, Como 4 News.
Totally muted. I can understand why the residents are a little upset. You could see the frustration that they're dealing with. They don't want to, they don't want to be mad at this kid because he's a kid and he had a rough upbringing and all of that sort of stuff. But on the other hand, he's stealing cars and crashing them and breaking in to places and stuff like that. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. So at this point, the heat is really on, and he decides to get the heck out of Dodge. I gotta go. He ends up stealing a boat and going to Orcas Island and doing basically the same thing there on Orcas Island that he did on Camino Island. He ends up going to Canada for a little while. He crosses the border into Canada by waiting. Apparently, the crossing where the, the security at the Canadian border is not nearly as good as it should be. First of all, because I guess the crossing where he was at is unmanned at night. So he hung out in the woods next to the border crossing and then just waited for the people to go home for the night and walked into Canada. So yeah, he definitely had a bad start in life and is just doing what he can to survive. There was a documentary that I watched, and there's a little clip from this documentary about these guys that he ran into in Canada that I want to play for you because it's a very interesting story. They did not know, obviously, that he's a fugitive. He's just a kid hitchhiking, as far as they know. And they end up picking him up. And I'm gonna pause this a couple times because it is from like a legit documentary, and I don't want to get, I'm not trying to steal this is fair use, obviously, but I just wanted, there's a good interview in here that I want you guys to see is all.
My car started making some funny noises, so I pulled off. This kid approached me, kind of out of nowhere. He had a black hoodie, military cargo pants. He had mud on his pants, maybe up to here. That kind of struck me as odd, like maybe he was hiding in a ditch or something. Said his name was Sean, and then asked me if I was headed east. So then we were both waiting for Jordy here to come pick us up.
I did not need to see their feet.
That's right.
And I asked him if it was uncouth of me to light up some of that green stuff or whatever. And
yeah.
Can't believe I just said that on video camera. Yeah.
I just want to point out the music that you're hearing in the background of this is their song, and I really like it a lot. I was trying to find it actually just to put it on a playlist for myself. I'll have to dig a little deeper to find it, but I really like the music, the music that these guys play.
We were heading through a construction zone.
He started to duck down, like going through this construction zone. I'm like, "Oh man, that's all right." Like, to hide from these guys or whatever. And we kind of joked about, "Oh, are you a fugitive or something?"
Yeah. So I asked him if he was a fugitive. He said, "What? No."
Didn't make you suspicious or anything?
No, not at all.
Once he told us about how it was so easy to sneak across from the U.S.-Canadian border, then we kind of wondered.
James offered to let him stay in his van at his house.
So when you were just sitting by the campfire, what was he doing? Just sitting in silence?
Sitting in silence, yeah. Just experiencing his high. We bagged him a lunch, me and my wife, and I gave him $5 or $10 cash, and I dropped him off on the number 3 highway.
How long was it before you realized who this kid was?
It was about 2 weeks. Headline says SWAT team combs force for American fugitives. I'm like, whatever. So I looked at it and I was like, holy shit, that's the guy.
That's the guy. So hope you guys liked that. I really, the whole documentary is on YouTube, by the way. It's called Fly Colt Fly. I highly suggest it if you like the story that I'm telling you right now. It's really good. Really good story, really good documentary. The way they put it all together, I really enjoyed it. So in November 12th, 2008, Colton steals his very first airplane. Keep in mind, this kid has had no formal training. He didn't even finish school, like regular school. He's got... I'm not muted, am I? If I'm muted, that's an issue because it does not say that I am muted. Okay. Good. Afraid is give me a heart attack over here. So November 12th, 2008, Colton steals his first airplane. No training. Didn't even finish regular school, let alone go to airplane flying school. I'm sure there's a name for it. According to his friends and family, Colton has always been like really into airplanes. You know that, like, I know I've had friends' kids who are like really into fire trucks and can name you every sort of fire truck, or really into cars and can just name different cars. Well, Colton was really into airplanes, and there could be a plane flying overhead, and he was able to just name like the make and model and year of whatever car it is. And keep in mind, they lived where there's a lot of small planes flying the area of the country that they lived in. Let's pull that up. So this is Camino Island where he lived, and then Orcas Island is up here where, oh, sorry, this one is Orcas Island. So he's living among all of these islands, and when you live, it's kind of like when you live in Alaska. There's a lot of small planes flying around, and so he knew all about all of the different kinds of airplanes. He even had, like, he would clip out of magazines pictures of airplanes and put it on his wall as a child. Also in the detention center, his roommate in the detention center said that he had pictures of airplanes. Like, you know, most kids who are 16, 17, 13, however old he was, would have, you know, pictures of girls or rock stars or something like that on their wall. Not Colton. He had pictures of airplanes. He wanted to be a pilot. He wanted to fly planes. And with the cards that he was dealt, it didn't seem like he would, you know, have the opportunity to go to pilot school, aviation school. To do that, it's very expensive. So most people, Colton, if you're hearing this, probably not, because I'm a very small channel, but maybe you're hearing this, probably the best thing to do would have been to join the Air Force or do very well in school, join the military, and have them teach you how to fly. But you have to also understand that Colton was a kid at the time. You know, you're not thinking that far ahead. I want to fly airplanes, I'm going to do it. So he steals his first airplane, and he actually flies it. He flies the dang plane. He does it. He learned from those DVDs that he borrowed the credit card information to buy, the instruction manuals, the you know, all of the stuff. He's been out in the woods in a tent with a flashlight learning how to fly a plane. On the news at the time, they were saying that they thought that he learned it from like video games and stuff, but that's not the case. He didn't have video games. He was not the kind of kid that was able to afford, you know, flight sim at the time. So he was learning just from reading the books and stuff. Just crazy. He ends up crashing. Landing's the hard part, apparently. Yeah, he borrowed the credit card info. Landing's the hard part, and he did crash land that plane. He walked away with minor cuts and bruises. He was fine. So at the time, the authorities were not thinking, oh, Colton Harris Moore is the one that stole this plane. They were thinking that some drug runner or something probably stole it to run drugs into Canada, something like that, because that's usually when small planes like that get stolen. Also, by the way, did you know that most planes, the pilots just leave the keys in the plane, or there's no key even required to start it? I had no idea. That seems insane to me. Like, they just leave the keys in there. I guess you have to know how to fly a plane to steal a plane, so they're not worried about people stealing a plane. Nobody was worried about somebody learning from an instruction manual how to steal an airplane. But they did, or he did. Hi, 'Hi, Roseanne. Good to see you. Hi, 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 So following the plane heist, I said, yeah, the authorities were not thinking that this was Colton. We find out like later on that it's him after he steals many more planes. He's also at the time he's stolen boats to go from island to island. So all in this area here, he's stealing boats and airplanes and island hopping basically, and then doing like little armed burglaries on the different islands. And you have to remember all of these islands are very wooded and they're vacation places. People go here on vacation. It's beautiful. There's whales. Obviously, Orcas Island is named after the orca whales. So there's a lot of vacation homes to break into. And there's a lot of little airports like this to go from island to island. Colton Harris Moore stole a series of cars and stayed on the move. And he traveled between such places as Reno, Sacramento, Eastern Washington. While on the run, he had 10 different charges filed against him by Island County. Island County prosecutors, including identity theft, that's for the stolen credit cards, illegal flight, not flight as an airplane flight, but illegal flight to avoid prosecution. Like he knew they were looking for him and he got the heck out of Dodge. Throughout the summer of 2009 and well into the fall, he continued his pattern of island hopping, stealing boats, planes, stealing cars while he's on the islands. And then on September 11th, 2009, he stole another plane. Interesting date on that one. I didn't put that together while I was writing my notes, but probably not a good idea to steal a plane on the anniversary of 9/11. Just saying. So this was a Cirrus SR-22 from the San Juan Island Public Airport, and he flew it to Orcas Island, and he landed it on the island's public runway. I didn't realize there was a public runway on Orcas Island. Huh. Wonder where that is. Let's find out. We'll find out together. Okay, so it's way up here. All right, so he landed there, all the way on the north end of that island. From there, he stole a boat and sailed to Point Roberts. A path of burglaries then stretched across British Columbia. So Point Roberts, I think, is over here, like in Victoria. Oh no, it's up here. So this is when he's in Canada now. He eventually comes to a stop at Bonner's Ferry in northern Idaho. So this is when he crossed into Canada. He just walked across whatever border crossing is here. Probably right here, there's a border crossing. He waited for them to go home, to go to sleep at night, and he hung out in these woods and just walked across the border in Point Roberts. He hitchhiked over to just above Idaho and then walked across the border again. So that's all the way over here. Up here somewhere. And all along the way, there's things missing. There's an airport in Canada where they said that he tried to steal a plane but was unsuccessful, and he ended up stealing a car from that airport. He tried to steal 3 cars and a plane, but ended up just stealing the car. Okay. So he goes back to the islands. Okay, so sorry. September 29, 2009. I'm totally getting my notes mixed up. Yeah, September 29, 2009, he broke into a Bonners Ferry airplane hangar and made off with a Cessna 182. This is the third plane that he's stolen. He managed to fly 260 miles to the west. So he's going back towards his home base over here with these islands over here from Bonners Ferry. And he ends up crashing the plane. And what happens is he starts to run out of fuel almost to where he needs to be. He sees an open field and he starts coming in because he's like, I can land in an open field. I've done this before. No biggie. He comes in. It turns out it was, the logging fields where they cut down trees and then they grow new trees. Well, this field had been cut like the year before. So the entire field was just covered in stumps, like out of the ground stumps, like you can't land on that. So he crash lands that plane, and then the pursuit starts again because they know that it's Colton, and somebody sees, they don't see the crash, but there was a guy that was like on a mountain, like a ledge over to the side, and they see the smoke coming up. So they're like, well, crap, something must have happened. They hike down there, see that it's a crashed plane. By that time, he's gone. He's out of here. And the cops come in, but it takes them like 2 days to get there because it's in the middle of nowhere. This is near Granite Falls, Washington, where he crashed that plane. So by this time, he's the prime suspect in about 100 different thefts throughout Washington, Idaho, and Canada, most of which were cars, airplanes, and speedboats. Undeterred by the charges piling up against him, he commandeered yet another Cirrus SR-22 from the Anacortes Airport on February 10th, 2010, which he later landed on Orcas Island. So we're back up here on Orcas Island. He's just all around the Northwest, just all over there. The following day, in Orcas Island, he burglarized, I can say words, a store called the Hometown Grocery. He stole more than $100 worth of cash. And by this time, this is when he's starting to become a folk hero, and people are calling him the Barefoot Bandit. And he starts to embrace that name of the Barefoot Bandit. And he draws on, with chalk, on the store of this grocery store, feet, and see ya right by the door. But yeah, he's definitely embracing his name of the Barefoot Bandit. You can see people are making t-shirts. It says Mama Tried, Colton Harris Moore fan club. In my opinion, Mama didn't try that hard since she was an alcoholic and let him move into the forest at age 12. There's all sorts of merchandise that people have made, basically propping this guy up. Little crazy to me. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. He took the time to draw all throughout the store footprints with chalk on the floor. So he didn't even really damage the store. He did steal $1,000 from them and broke the lock or whatever to get in there, but they're just propping this guy up at this point. By this point, the feds were involved, and the FBI, the Coast Guard, were both on the hunt for him. So since he crossed not only state lines, but also crossed the, international and into Canada. So the FBI is involved. Coast Guard is patrolling all of those islands over there at this point, looking for him, looking for stolen boats. And they figure out where he is because there'll be a boat reported missing on one island, and then they'll find the boat just beached somewhere on another island. So they're like, well, then obviously he's on that island. At this point, the FBI or the federal, whoever's leading the investigation, releases a $10,000 reward for information leading to his capture. On May 31st, a veterinary clinic in Raymond, Washington, gets to work in the morning and they find a note on their door that says, drove by, had some extra cash. Please use this money for the care of the animals. Colton Harris Moore, a.k.a. Barefoot Bandit, Camino Island, Washington. Now, one of the stories I forgot to tell you guys is one of the times, remember how I was telling you that he would be living in the woods and the cops would come and like find his camp, but he would be gone. Like he would hear them coming and he would take off and then they would just take his tent and stuff. One of those times he had his dog with him and the cops took his dog to the animal shelter and his mom then tried to get the dog back and the police are like, no, you can't have the dog back because the dog is evidence. And she's like, what the heck? How is a dog evidence? Like it's technically my dog. It was Colton's dog, you know. This is where I draw the line. Speaking of, if you want to get Xena a treat, you can go ahead and make a donation there at buymeacoffee.com/KatieZ if you like dogs as much as I do. So they take his dog. His dog is at the, ASPCA or animal control, wherever. What do you think Colton does? Tell me in the chat. What do you think Colton does when they take his dog and won't give it to his mom to get his dog back? I'm going to wait a second and see if you guys know or can, just from the stories that I've told you about Colton already, what do you think he does when, like, man, don't mess with my dog is what I'm saying. Don't mess with my dog. Any ideas what you think they did or what Colton did? Obviously he was mad and he absolutely, the very next night he broke into the animal shelter and took his dog back. The very next night he broke into the animal shelter and took his dog back. But yeah, there's the note. So insane. Like, did they think they were going to be able to, somebody donated. Greg donated this. You know what this means. Thank you very much, Greg. Hey, Xena, I have something for you. Thank you, Greg. Thank you. People always ask if she can do tricks. I'm going to see what she can do this sleepy. All right, Xena. Do a shake. That's a good shake. Do shake with this hand. No, the other. the other. She only shakes with one hand. Do shake. That's a good treat. There's a treat from Greg. And since Greg donated $10, she gets 2 treats. Gotta sit up. You gotta sit up. Up. Sit up. Good girl. Do a shake. Do plots. Good girl. That's a good girl. Yes, I just kissed her nose. She's my co-host. She gets, She doesn't do lay down. She does plots because we had a German Shepherd before this that only spoke German. So my dog speaks German. You're such a good girl. Yes, you are. Everybody loves you. She's the best co-host ever. All right. Where was I? Thank you so much, Greg. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. YouTube has demonetized me and basically I get no ad revenue at all. So I appreciate it. Look at it. Now she's expecting treats now. She's just staring at me. I feel stared at. You're staring at me. Best co-host ever. She doesn't do a lot of the work. I have to do, carry most of the weight, but she brings in the donation. So what more can you ask for? Okay. I'm glad I checked that. I always tell people to let me know if you donate because I don't have it up all the time because I've got the Rumble chat and Odyssey chat on the screen. And then I have what I'm showing you on this screen, and obviously I'm streaming from this screen. So if you do donate, please let me know to check because I don't get a pop-up or anything like you do. You know, on YouTube, you get like a super chat pop-up. That doesn't happen. All right, so he leaves a handwritten note and $100 in cash at the Raymond Veterinary Clinic. And it says, basically, use this to help the dogs. And this point, he decides he needs to get the heck out of here. He needs to get out of Dodge because the heat is too hot. And if the heat is hot, you get out of the kitchen. So he steals a bunch of cars. I'm getting ahead of myself. The big airplane heist comes in a little bit. He steals cars, and then what he'll do, instead of using these credit cards that he's stolen to get gas, because he knows he's smart enough to know that they're tracking him, they're looking for him. So instead of doing that, he drives a car until it runs out of gas, ditches it, steals another car. Definitely steals another car. And then he... you can remind people of that News Now enemy. Just let me know because I want to do the thing, but I don't always know when the thing happens. So he's going from state to state. He's going all across the United States. And he doesn't know where he's going. He just knows he's going. And he ends up driving with stolen cars all the way to Indiana. So that's pretty far. That's like, it took him 11 days just stealing cars and going all the way across to Indiana. And he ends up in Indiana on the 4th of July. God bless America. So it's been going on a while. This is like 2 years now that they're hunting for him and stuff. So he makes it to Bloomington, Indiana on the morning of July 4th, 2010. Well, let's find Bloomington, Indiana. Okay, so here we are in Bloomington, beautiful Bloomington, Indiana. And there's an airport here. Well, apparently there's a couple airports. I'm not sure which one. I'm guessing it's this one that's actually in Bloomington. Oh, that's a hospital heliport. Monroe County Airport. That's the one I remember from. Okay, so he's here at this airport. Meanwhile, they know that this kid is on the run and he is stealing airplanes. So there's like a notice out to all small aircraft, all like small aircraft owners that, hey, make sure you don't leave your keys in the car or in the plane. Don't leave your keys in the plane because, there's a kid that's stealing small airplanes and he's stolen 5 of them so far. If we're following on, there's 5 different airplanes that he's stolen and he's crashed most of them. Most of them have crash landed because I guess there's a learning curve when you don't actually take airplane flying lessons. He steals this airplane from Monroe County Airport, and the gentleman whose airplane it was actually didn't know that his airplane was missing. He was not one of the people that got this notice. It was 4th of July. He was at a barbecue with his family, not even paying attention to whatever's going on in the airport. He doesn't live at the airport, so he's not checking up on his plane. And Colton's plan is to get this airplane. He made sure it was full of gas and he wants to make it to Cuba because there's no extradition treaty in Cuba. So on that whole drive across the country, he ended up making this plan, like, where can I go to get out of this trouble that I'm in? And he ends up going to wanting to go to Cuba from Indiana. Unfortunately, in a small plane like that, even the weather conditions have to be exactly correct to make it all the way to Cuba from Indiana. I've actually been to Cuba. I've been to Havana, but that's pretty far away from Bloomington, Indiana to Cuba. Not to mention the fact, I don't know if you want to be going into Cuba without like going through the immigration with the passports and all that stuff. The immigration in Cuba was like, man, I don't even know what to like. I got stopped at immigration in Cuba. I almost didn't get in. They like looked up my online activity and is like, oh, is this you? And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who that person is. This is before I put my face online. Anyway, I did end up getting in to Cuba. So he doesn't make it all the way to Cuba. He ends up in these islands here in the Bahamas. So he starts running out of gas. He tries to land. He sees like a open field again. These open fields that he keeps thinking that it's an open field. I've landed there before because he's landed a couple of them okay in an open field. This time, though, the ground in the Bahamas is way different than the ground in the northwest of this country. So he tries to land the plane and immediately the wheels break off because it's soft, it's sandy, and the wheels just immediately sink into the soil and break off. Now, this airplane that he stole, this most recent one, is kind of a nicer airplane. So when it crashes, immediately a sensor goes off and it notifies the U.S. Coast Guard. Like, this plane has crashed, come help. It's kind of like OnStar for airplanes is what I was picturing. So he gets away from that plane almost immediately. He's like, I've got to get out of here. I've got to go. Got to go. I think this is... No, that's Andros Island. Is it Abaco Island that he was on? There's a lot of islands in the Bahamas. I was wrong. Okay, so he's landing over here on these Abaco Islands. And he ends up going to a small fishing village and just living, like, lying low for a while, for a few days. The police or the FBI, the Coast Guard, all of them tell the Bahamas people, the Bahamas, authorities, hey, this is the kid we're looking for. We think he's on your island. We think he stole this plane and he's on your island. Please look for him. So he's like totally laying low. There was a story that a woman told in that documentary I was telling you about. She owned a little cafe in this fishing village or in this town that he's hiding out in. And at one point, Colton sees on her window, like, they have Wi-Fi. So he goes in and he asked her, hey, can I use your Wi-Fi? I need to contact my mom. I haven't talked to her in a month. And she's worried about me. And she was worried about him. His mom was meanwhile back home telling all the news outlets to get the word out because she doesn't know if he's alive or dead. She thinks that he might be like have died of exposure in some forest somewhere, or went onto the wrong person's property and got shot, something like that. So she's putting this plea out to anybody who will listen. Please contact me. Please let me know you're okay. So he sees this in the news and asks the woman if can I please use your internet? I need to contact my mom. And she sees him and she says, yeah, of course. And he says, well, I don't have any money, but I really need to call my mom. And she allows him to use the internet, and she looks out and he's all disheveled and skinny and barefoot, and asks him, do you want a sandwich? And he says, I don't have any money. And she's like, I didn't ask you if you have money. I asked you I'm making sandwiches. Do you want one? And she makes him a sandwich. She's like an older lady. And she just seemed so kind to see this kid, basically the kid, he's 18 or 19 at this time. So he's been doing this for years. We started the story, he was 16 years old. He's 19 now, I believe. But the kindness that I saw in that woman's eyes and the story that she told, it just goes to show that I say on my channel a lot that there is goodness and there's evil in the world. And I want to point out the good that I see in the world. And that woman was definitely a good person who saw a kid in trouble and made sure he was able to have a full belly and talk to his mom. It teared me up when I watched it. It teared up a little bit, not gonna lie. She didn't know that he was wanted at the time, obviously. All this hindsight is 2020. You know what I mean? The mom's, I don't know if she sobered up or not. She seemed, in the interviews that I saw from her, she didn't seem drunk and high, but who knows? She could have been drunk and high. But even if you're drunk and high, it doesn't mean you don't care about your kid. Honestly. Hey, Life to the Max. Hey, I got all the stuff you gave me in the background. I have the A Woman's Place is Anywhere She Wants in the kitchen right there. And I have my N keychain hanging with my BasedCon tag right there. Thank you so much. I love everything that you sent me. Appreciate that. So he starts to get bored in the Great Abaco Island and he steals a boat. Of course he steals a boat. Because what else is he gonna do? He drives up to a dock, and so he steals this boat and he's driving around and he drives up to a dock where there's locals just hanging out. And by this point, so this is a few days later, by this point his face is plastered like on every like convenience store door, on in the post office, all of this other stuff. I can't help the way Xena Lace. She's my co-host. She does what she wants. Xena, turn around. See? Nothing. If I do this, she'll turn around. Maybe not. He drives up to this dock, totally get distracted. Just so you guys know, this is more like a hangout of me telling you a story instead of an actual podcast. He drives up to a dock with these locals hanging out and says, "Hey, I'm Colton Harris Moore, the Barefoot Bandit. Call the police. I want to get chased. I want to have a little fun. I'm bored." So this guy who's at this dock, this local man, knows because he's seen the posters at this point, because it's a few days later. He sees the posters and he pretends he doesn't know him because he wants to catch him, because he knows there's a $10,000 reward out for this guy. But it doesn't work like that. He ends up going into the town. Oh, here's a little video I want to play that this is 4 hours before he's caught, 4 hours before he drives, steals the boat and drives up to that dock. He's just hanging out in a town in the Bahamas. And you can see him standing right here. He's wearing he's like here. He's wearing a light colored shirt and light shorts and has bare feet. And there's this like festival. It's 4th of July, or it's just after 4th of July, but there's this thing happening in the streets in the Bahamas. It's a vacation town. Everybody's there on vacation. It's not unusual to see a white guy just hanging out with no shoes. And you can see he's kind of disheveled and just kind of standing there. He's not participating. He's just taking it all in. So, he's bored is what the point. He is definitely bored, and this is when he goes to steal the boat and take off. Hold on, I'm pressing the wrong buttons. I jumped ahead. Get that off the screen. He didn't get caught yet. It's coming up. So he steals the boat, tells the guy, "Hey, I'm bored. Tell the police to chase me." And he is running from the cops around this little seaport town. Ends up slipping back, and they think they have him cornered in the woods, but he ends up going down a little bit from the marina to some lady's house that's on the water, slips into the water, swims out and back to the boat that he had stolen already, steals it again, and ends up taking off. The police see him. There's some other people there that are just visiting that have a boat that's ready to go. So just a civilian boat. The cops apparently don't have a boat. So the cops say, "Hey, can you take us to chase this guy?" And they're like, "Sure, get in, coppers." And they all pile into this boat and they take off after him. And he gets stuck on a sandbar. He almost got away again, but he gets stuck on a sandbar. And the way it is, he's not stuck. It slows way down because his propeller is going through the sand. It's like sputtering through the sand and it slows way down. And the boat that the cops are on, they have the, radar or whatever. They have the maps, so they know where the sandbar is, and they also know where the sandbar ends. So he's getting close to getting through the sandbar where he could totally take off again. And he the cops end up catching him because Bahamian cops, I'm thinking of a nice way to put this. The Bahama cops don't follow the same rules as the American cops do, meaning that when you're running away and you're not posing a threat to anybody, they can't just shoot at you. Or they're not supposed to. They can do whatever they want because, whatever. But they're not supposed to just shoot at you. But not in the Bahamas. So the Bahama cops shoot out, they don't shoot at him, but they shoot his engine to kill his engine. So now he's dead in the water, just dead in the water. This is the sad part. He does have a gun that he had stolen somewhere along the way, either in one of the cars that he had stolen or one of the airports that he had broken into. Somewhere he has a gun, and he takes the gun and he puts it to his head, and he puts it down and he puts it to his head, and he's contemplating suicide at this point. Just so you know, there's never any good reason to kill yourself. It gets better no matter what kind of crap you're in. Do not take your own life, because it doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. That's the PSA for today. There's no need to take your own life. It does get better for sure. He doesn't end up killing himself. The cops talk him down and he ends up getting arrested. So we'll play that now.
He wanted to go home, so that's the fastest way of getting home. Because if he pleaded not guilty, then he would be facing a trial, and who knows when it would have started.
Step back, please.
So in the Bahamas, the only thing that they convicted him of, or he pled guilty to, was entering the country without a passport.
He was pretty calm, pretty clear. He spoke very clearly. He's got a deep voice, spoke clearly to the judge, tall guy, and looked him right in the eye, said guilty. After everyone cleared out, he was talking to, immigration and police officials. They were all smiling, chuckling, so he got a slap on the wrist, basically. So I don't think he's too worried about it. I think he's got some more problems waiting for him in the States, though.
He sure did.
Anything you want to say?
That's at his mom's house. So that's his trailer that he lived in that I was telling you guys about. And she's got all sorts of no trespassing signs up because obviously she was getting hounded by the media at that point. Just hounded.
Oh, no. You need to go home right away. And when I think about the people who started these fan clubs and started making t-shirts and are profiting and saying he should keep doing what he's doing and saying that they don't think there's anything wrong with it, is that it's pathetic and it's sad that our society worships this kid.
So yeah, he ends up getting caught in the Bahamas. I don't know what's playing right now. Oh, I played the next video. Okay, sorry. Tech distraction. It happens. I saw. Let me see who was it. I just want to address something I saw in the chat while that was playing. Oh, about e-begging like Jeremiah. I asked for donations to upgrade my equipment. I'm not asking for donations for any other reason. I started out with a laptop and an $18 mic, and now I'm able to do this more professionally. So anybody who donates, I do ask for donations because my time is worth something, and that's it. I don't know of anybody who does not ask for donations when I spend days, sometimes weeks researching. I spend time doing this. Any money that I've made, every cent that I've made doing this, any money that anybody has ever donated, I bought a new microphone. I have 3 monitors now so I can do production. So I'm sorry if it offends anybody that I ask for donations, but YouTube demonetized me and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So that's it. I don't know if you were saying that maliciously or whatever, but I don't appreciate being compared to Jeremiah. That's kind of crazy. Oh yeah. The first thing that I got with the very first donation was a Xenacam, and everybody seriously, what would this show be without my co-host right here? Xenacam was the very first thing I got. Anyway, that's fine. I like the haters. I was just saying that I wanted more haters over here. So if you are out there, associates, if you are a hater, I appreciate you being here. You're welcome back anytime. Okay, so he goes back to the United States. He gets extradited, obviously. Back to the United States. and he ends up being sentenced to 7 years of state prison time and an additional 6 years by the Island County courts. So it seems like a lot of the crimes that he committed went unpunished. Oh, okay. I misunderstood. I apologize out there, associates. I must have not seen all of the chats. I just saw that somebody compared me to Jeremetha, and I was like, what? Not exactly. He like gets on total tangent, but that guy gets online and doesn't do anything except beg for money. Like, I put a lot of work into this crap. Oh man. My apologies. Thank you for coming. And I didn't mean to jump the gun. I don't know what there's a saying that I'm going for, but I'm not sure what it is. Anywho, so 6 years state time, 7 years state time, 6 years county time. He ends up pleading guilty to all of it because he just wants to get it over with. And he, in interviews that I've seen, he basically says, I'm going to put this on, and this is just some B-roll footage I'm just going to put on in the background with no sound while I'm telling the rest of the story. This is just, I found 12 minutes of B-roll of him getting arrested and going to court and all sorts of stuff. So I just thought it was an interesting watch while I run my mouth. Thank you very much, Finding the Faith. That deserves to go on the screen. That makes my heart happy. So he ends up, he has to pay restitution. And what he does, he knows that he's never going to be able to pay, I think it was close to $2 million in restitution that he was ordered to pay, along with these prison sentences. So he ends up selling his story to 20th Century Fox for $1.4 million. Every single cent of that went to go make the people whole who he broke their doors and stole their stuff. And, the one airplane alone, the last airplane that he stole was like $700,000. So, it all went to restitution. He still owes that. Maybe not now. He got out of prison in 2016, I believe. So he might not owe any more. So yeah, September 2nd, 2016. So he gets the money for the restitution. He doesn't see a cent of it. It just goes to the lawyers and goes directly out to the people who, he did damage to. He honestly did damage for this kid. I don't know if you guys feel the same. One of the things that he mentioned in an interview, more recent interview, I think it was like in 2021, 2020, something, he did an interview, and he was saying he wanted to get his pilot's license, but they won't let him because of his criminal record. Even though he's off of probation now, he's made all of the restitution. Most of the crimes that he was convicted of happened when he was a kid, under 18. But the what's the airlines people that I want to say FDA, but that's the Food and Drug Administration. Whatever the airline, that's gonna drive me nuts. But I just dropped the link in the chat. If somebody wants to hop in here, you can. What do you guys think of the story of Colton Harris Moore? Do you think that he was treated fairly? I think as far as the punishment, he ended up serving 6 years and then was on probation for the rest of his sentence. He petitioned the court to get off of probation early, and they did let him get off of probation early. So I think it turned out okay. Although that whole airline thing, I kind of, I wish they would let him get his pilot's license. Yeah, Jerry, you're welcome to join if you want. I was on Jerry's show the other day and then again this morning. You guys should definitely sub to his channel. Oh, here's Frida. Let me add her in. Hello. Are you muted? I think you're muted. Say something.
Hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Hi, Frida. How are you? I'm not hearing you. That's weird. You were unmuted and now I'm not hearing you. That's weird. You were unmuted and now I'm not hearing you. That's weird. You were unmuted and now we're gonna work out the technical difficulties. Turn down whatever you were listening to me on. Please turn down or mute. Turn down.
There we go.
Better. Okay. So what do you think of the story?
So I think it's really kind of heartbreaking in a way because he had a really hard life and then he kind of, to a degree, he made it harder because of the fact that of all the, poor he made. And then on top of it, I mean, it didn't help that he didn't have necessarily like positive role models, but I do think that it just exacerbated everything.
Absolutely.
Where he wasn't able to make better decisions. And coming from a very, very messy childhood myself, I get it to some degree. And I also have a lot of empathy for that. But it's all about, trying to find a good support system and then making the right decisions off of that.
Absolutely. And it sounded like he had no support system at all.
Yeah.
Even like the kids at his school and stuff would pick on him and bully him. So it wasn't even like he had a close-knit friend group to go to turn to, or a church community or anything like that.
Yeah. I had so much support from my, church community growing up, which really helped balance out the fact that I was literally bullied every single day.
Yeah.
I was like told to like mass like at least 12 times a day in high school.
That's sad.
So
yeah. I was bullied in like middle school, not so much high school, but it's because high school was kind of a fresh start where nobody knew me and I just kind of stayed to myself. I didn't reach out to have a friend group. I would rather just be a loner than get bullied again. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard not to root for this kid when he's stealing airplanes and like basically flipping off the law. Like it's like a catch me if you can,
Yes, it definitely serves like very much like anti-hero.
Yeah, definitely.
And I almost wish that he could like get his airplane license so that he could then go forward and actually have something like a passion to hold on to.
Yeah.
I feel like if he had that, maybe he would like get his shit together.
Exactly. Yeah. Or at least get, and he might, I don't know exactly what he does for a living, or get a job like designing airplanes or like something like that. Even if he doesn't necessarily fly, but I think he's very well suited for design and engineering and stuff like that. The fact that he figured out how to use an infrared camera and where to get one and how to disable alarms. Like he obviously has that kind of mind that I absolutely don't have, where he can figure stuff out. Like I can't even figure out how to get a live stream to work half the time.
Dude. And when you were talking about the way he like read all those books and was able to understand them from just reading the information.
Yeah.
That was amazing because I was like, how?
Exactly.
I'm very like hands-on person and I'm also like very a visual learner. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did you have any closing thoughts about this? I'm gonna get Jerry in here in a minute. So
no. Great show.
Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And just so everybody knows, I'm going to be on Freida's show in June, correct?
Yes, in June.
Yes. So I'll definitely drop links about that when it gets closer. And you guys have that to look forward to. I'm very excited about it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Jerry.
Hey.
Long
How am I
time no
doing?
talk.
I know. Wow. It's been such a long time.
Yeah.
How's
So
my
what,
sound doing?
your sound is great. It's fine. What did you think of the story today?
I can relate.
Yeah.
I I do have I do like his story because it reminds me of my story, but I don't know. I guess the outcome I think is fair if everything went down like that where he was able to sell his story and pay back all the people that he did wrong. I think that's cool. I'm good with the guy if that's what he did.
Yeah.
Because I went through the same thing. I mean, I had a rough upbringing. I wasn't the shining example of a good citizen when I was coming up as a kid, and I did something. I did something similar that to him. Not so much in the grand scale, like stealing a bunch of different like
Steal any
planes.
aircrafts?
No, not aircraft. No aircraft. No. But I did something that I shouldn't have done out of anger. Mostly because I thought everybody was against me. It's that type of entitlement, type of mentality that you grow up in when you don't have good role models around you, and it's nothing but people who are at the bottom. It's a really bad type of attitude to have. But it's mostly about anger. You're mostly angry because you're like, why don't I have this and why don't I have that? Instead of internalizing it, it's a very toxic type of way of thinking. But it only happens, when you don't have a good structure around you. Like you said, a good community, good parents, something. You know what I mean? It's tough. It's tough to have that kind of like thought process that works. Because you don't see it working for you. You just think, why are people trying to control me and stuff like that?
I think that's a very good point you made about being angry, because one of the things about I researched the type of community that he grew up in, and it was one way or the other. You were either really rich or really poor. So I'm sure he went to school with people who had all the new clothes and the shoes and whatever else, and he did not have that at all. So that does cause some anger in kids when they don't understand it. And not only that, but the people he went to school with are bullying him and have two parents or at least one parent who loves them. And he did not, from his perspective, have any of that. I really think his mom did love him. She just struggled with alcoholism, and I'm not sure if she was addicted to drugs too, but I'm not taking the fault away from her for being an alcoholic, but it is a disease. So once you fall into it, addiction is a disease, and it's a preventable disease. And yes, it's your fault for drinking to start with or doing drugs or whatever, but it's not 100% her fault either. Once she's in the addiction, she did her best. She did not love him.
Yeah, no, I think when it comes to addiction, it's a certain amount of it is your fault, but once you take ownership of it, I think after that, whatever trials you go through as far as like trying to recover, a lot of people won't blame you for if you're having a hard time, because you're taking ownership that you are having problems. I think where we don't excuse people that are in those diseases or in those moments is when they don't want to take ownership of it, when they want to act like it's not, that's not the problem, so they basically say you don't know what you're talking about. I think that's where we don't have where people won't side with you if you're in that, is if you say that it's not the problem and you continue doing it. But if you take ownership of it, I think that's when people are more willing to help you, more willing to be give you leeway when you're in those problems,
Absolutely true.
Yeah, and like I said, about as far as Colton, I wish that he would have never done that. Just like I wish I would have never done my mistake, because I think the consequences, as far as like, him not being able to fly, is fair. Because if you think about it, it's a situation where it's like, yeah, I get it. He's a resourceful guy, and I'm pretty sure he'll learn how to fly a plane. But he messed up his trust. He just completely messed it up by doing the things that he did. And yeah, there is good excuses as to why he did it, but it doesn't matter. It was still done, and I wouldn't expect our justice system to be like, give a little leeway for each individual person. Our system is built to be blind for a reason. Because there shouldn't be, we shouldn't weigh in factors like that. I know, and I get it, that sometimes it should work some way like that, but I think that it does a disservice if we're giving somebody else a leeway where somebody else wouldn't get leeway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think it shouldn't be like that at all. I think that once you've paid for your mistakes, you should be able to have a fresh start, because otherwise it drives people back into crime again. So
I do believe that there's some things that are a little too harsh for your either like your first felony, stuff like that. I
this
absolutely
guy,
get what you're saying.
if you think about it, he did do property damage and he stole stuff, but he did not hurt anybody, and he's being punished for the rest of his life. And he did not punch anybody. He did not kick anybody. He did not kill anybody. And it's kind of harsh.
Yeah, well, I get the part where it's like he didn't kick anybody or do anything like that, but it is property, and those things. In the grand scheme of things, you're talking about money, like things that have to get paid. Who knows if he took a plane that charters people from one place to another, or if he took a boat from somebody that needs it to fish. We don't know this. You know what I mean? I'm just throwing things out there that like, yes, I know that it's not a direct thing where he hurt somebody, but in the grand scheme of things, he actually did. And the thing is that it's not, and he did make him whole by paying him back, and that's the good part, is that he did do that. But what I mean is that, like, it's the trust. It's just the trust. Like, once you do something at that grand scale, it's like, no matter what, you're always going to be looked at, in a certain way. So even if they gave him, like, say they gave him like the ability to get a pilot's license, I'm pretty sure that the what is it, the FDA or the FAA, they're going to have him on record knowing about the things that he did, and regardless of whether he wants to or not, it's always going to be there. I'm currently trying to expunge the stuff that I got, but even if I do expunge it, I was already told that it's always going to be on like government records. So it doesn't make a difference. It's only for private businesses that I'll be able to do that. So I don't know if that works the same for airlines and stuff like that.
I think any of the 3-letter government agencies would have access to even juvenile records, as far as I know.
Yeah. So I mean, I just think it's I don't think it's fair to judge somebody on like the past for after so many years, like people change or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the scale of everything. You know what I mean?
It was a lot.
Yeah, and that's where I kind of get it on the other side. So I empathize with the kid. I was that kid, so I could say, yeah, I get it, and I'm pretty sure he will too. So I don't think it's a lost cause. I just think that he's gonna have to find a new passion.
Yeah, exactly. Or get a job in air, airline or air design, something like that, where he's not actually flying, where he could do a job that has to do with airplanes, but not actually flying the airplanes.
On a good note, I'm glad this wasn't a murder case. I'm glad nobody died.
Well, it's Mother's Day, and I was going to have Jessica Green on, but the tech didn't work out. But I didn't want to have like rape and murder on Mother's Day, so
that makes sense.
We'll save that for Christmas.
There you go. On a truly special Christmas episode.
Yeah, I think I did the Brown's Chicken Massacre on Christmas. So
nice.
7 people slaughtered in a fast food restaurant. Anyway,
goodness.
did you have any final thoughts about this case, or?
No, I'm good. I think I said everything I needed to say. Thank you.
News Now Enemy did drop your link in the chat, so everybody go subscribe to Jerry. We're trying to get him to 1,000. I think you're.
Oh, I'm a few away, right? I think I just need like 999. I
900,
think.
yeah, exactly, like 800 and 900, yeah, exactly. But you'll get there because you do good work and you know what you're talking about. So we'll
Oh,
get you
thank you.
there, and I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. You have a good one.
All right,
Happy
bye.
Mama's Day.
Thank you. Did anybody else want to jump on? If not, we're going to end it right now. Oh, I have to put this on the correct screen or it won't play. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. Sorry we couldn't get Jessica's tech to work. We tried so hard. It was a mad panic at the beginning of the show. So we're definitely going to test it out, figure out what went wrong, and have her on for another case. I got to think of another case that doesn't have like a lot of gore and stuff, because that's what I was looking for her. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. I see Scotto came in at the last minute. I appreciate you stopping by. You just missed it. We've been going for, I don't know, an hour and 45 minutes, hour and 39. I started late because I was working on some tech stuff. But I will see you all next week for an episode of Crime Land. I appreciate you all coming by. And if you have not hit the like button, please do that on your way out. Subscribe if you're not already. Why not? And you all know the links to donate if you think that what you're watching is worth a couple of dollars. I absolutely appreciate it. Have a great day, guys.
Needed a new track of land. I used to dig the Simpsons, man. Bumping Biggie, Pop, Smash Mouth, and Simple Plan. No scrubs for the crease in my pimples, damn. From the south streets of southeast Michigan, hitting shuffle till I settled on a different jam. And when a dime won't do, a better nickel can. And let me tell you, when I used to dig them Simpsons, man. A funny thing about time, you can't get it back. A tight grip, but it rips the jacket. Slight lisp with a mix of traffic. You see about me, like Mr. Glass, always wished I was a whiz at graphics. Take me back to the past where the hits were massive. You could hear Gladys Knight and the Pips on plastic, misfit molasses. Delete my contacts just so I can stick to glasses. Feel that skipped out, so I miss the classics. Aristotle of the bottle, Seneca of the simple action, senator of the simple maxim. I swear for a skillful Saxon, I'm still relaxing. Who wanna take a dip in the mind sauce, making up for the time lost, forgetting all my passwords when I sign off. Prime bribe, prime rib, Agent Smith, prime boss, popping red pills till my mind's off, mind's off. First Florida man, Endo de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Won't you so loco, show off your photos, throw out your Twinkies, throw up your ho-hos, tucking them pinkies, them shits a no-no. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Brought to my attention by the man with the mojo. My 8 subscriber, I'm a bagoso. Jump in them Sinkies and dump them mimosos. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Threw up that blue pill, moved to a new track. I slew the foothills of that voodoo sap. Microfiche tape decks, I'll sift through that, cause I'll do anything to get the old Simpsons back. Give me the news that make my mood react. I'll swim through the sewer just to make it to the truth intact. And you can shine up that voodoo with new shellac. I'll still do anything to get the old Simpsons back. Imagine thinking Karl Marx is new school Klingon like Huzu. They welcome the ways they can bring on the boots, dude. Declare a major, they get paid to pollute you. Self-ashamed neighbors never gaze when they scoop you. I wonder how we fight it. The sixth step is never enter in my tent uninvited. The fifth step is produce, no skills is no use. Fourth step, community preference is unity. Third step is nation, it's somewhat location, mostly relations, that's the situation. Next step, family, patriarchal sanity, safe under the canopy, ain't a place for anarchy. First step, I just got to say it, no showboat. Step back and soak up the logos. First Florida man, Endo de Soto. First Florida man, was Hernando de Soto. Won't you soak logos, show off your photos, throw out them Twinkies, throw up your ho-hos, tuck in them pinkies, them shits a no-no. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Got my attention by the man with the mojo, my 8th subscriber, Yama Bagoso. Jump in them Sinkies and dump them mimosos. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Hernando de Soto. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Got my attention by the man with the mojo, my 8th subscriber, Yama Bagoso. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto.